Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Walls. Welcome back to a brand new match preview on the channel. And all of a sudden, Saturday's game away at Ipswich has a little bit more on it. It's going to be a really interesting game at Portman Road on Saturday. We're going to be looking ahead to that match with the latest Wolves news. And of course, we'll have the opposition perspective later on in the video. Let's try and smash 250 likes on this one and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But yes, like I said, a massive win for Wolves on Tuesday against West Ham, where I thought we were pretty solid. We weren't remarkable. I think that was always going to be the case. I don't think it was going to be a classic match for the neutrals as such. But Wolves got the job done, got that early goal. Maybe could have added 1 or 2 goals throughout the game as well. But again, 3 matches unbeaten now. And on Tuesday evening, we looked in a really nice place. But then Ipswich go and beat Bournemouth, which I think surprised a fair few people. Bournemouth haven't been on the best of form, to be completely honest. But, Ipswich, that's their first win, I think, of 2025 in the league. So it was a little bit of a surprise. And all of a sudden, a really nice 12-point gap goes down to a 9-point gap. And then Ipswich, it adds a little bit more fuel to this game for Wolves, because if Ipswich do go and beat us, it goes down to 6 points. Now, I don't think there's any reason to panic, because if that is the case, because I think Ipswich's running is tougher than the Wolves' running, and they would still have to gain 7 more points without a goal difference. They'd have to gain 7 more points than we do throughout the rest of the season. But I just hope Wolves can make it nice and straightforward and get something out of this game tomorrow. I think it's basically a do-not-lose game for Wolves to just keep a nice gap between the two clubs. A win would be fantastic, and I think we're good enough. And with the momentum that we've got and the mentality that we seem to be showing under Vitor Pereira, we probably should, and we should get the win, really. But this is the test, because this is the thing for me. Yes, we've got results in games, possibly, recently. I don't think there's been loads and loads of pressure on the games over the last couple of weeks, but we've got the job done. For some reason, I just have a little sense of nervousness now going into this game. And I really hope the players aren't feeling the same way. And I really hope Vitor Pereira has got them into this mindset and mentality that the job isn't done. We still have a lot of points to fight for, and hopefully we can get the job done tomorrow against Ipswich. Now, in regards to team news, we've already had the pre-match press conference from Vitor Pereira. In regards to team news, it's as expected, really. No fresh injury concerns, and 2 players that may well be back in the picture are Rodrigo Gomez and Gonzalo Guedes. Both of those have been labelled as available for tomorrow's game. They both missed Tuesday's game due to small injuries. Hopefully they'll be back in the squad, because I felt towards the end of the West Ham game we probably could have done with a bit more bite and pace going forward when the players started to look a little bit leggy. Another thing to add to tomorrow's game is the touchline bans for Vitor Pereira and his assistant head coach as well. Both of those have got touchline bans after picking up bookings on Tuesday. I think Vitor's was around half-time after saying something to the referee. And his assistant head coach was towards the end of the game when he was really lapping it up and trying to get the fans involved, which I absolutely loved. Maybe it was a harsh booking, but then you watch the video and he's about 10 yards outside of the technical area. But, I love that. And I do wonder, these are professional footballers, and I'm sure Vitor is going to be calling or ringing down to the dugout to see what's going on and telling them what to do. But I really hope that doesn't have any sort of side effect on what Wolves can produce tomorrow at Portman Road. Now, Ipswich have got certain players that are, that can cause us problems. You go back to the reverse fixture, and I felt that was just. I just watched my match reaction back from that game, because I can vividly remember me saying, I think that was the point where I was really disappointed. I thought we were in a lot of trouble and thought maybe we were going down. But that is almost a sliding doors moment for Wolves this season, because that triggered the sacking of Gary O'Neill. We remember all the aftermath with Aït-Nouri and Cunha. O'Neill was sacked, and really our fortunes have turned since that game. So we saw at Molineux, they've got quality. Liam Delap is the one player who's almost been the poster boy for Ipswich Town this season in the Premier League. He scored 11 Premier League goals. Just looked such a menace running at our defence at Molineux last time. And I have no doubt it will be, a similar sort of thing. However, we do have obviously different players playing, better defenders, I think a better midfield, and a more informed team as well going into this game. And that's why with my predicted lineup, as you can see on the screen, I've gone completely unchanged. So I don't think there'll be any changes. It'll be unchanged once again, in my opinion. We will have the quality back on the bench, I think, of Rodrigo Gomez and Gonzalo Guedes, obviously. But for me, I think you go unchanged and hope that team can do the business again, which, they've been able to show recently that they can. But I'm really hoping that we can get off to a good start. I think Portman Road, Ipswich have found it actually difficult there to play teams because they're conceding the first goal a lot. And I think if we can go, like we have done the last couple of games, West Ham game, Southampton game, we get off and score within the first sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. I think we know how to see out football matches under Vitor Pereira. So I think it's quite key that we try and get ourselves in the game and get on the score sheet as early as we can. And of course, if the likes of Marshall Manetzi, it'd be great to see him score another goal. Jorgen Strand-Larsen, if he can continue his hot run of form as well, that'd be brilliant. Of course, it's the last game of Mateus Cunha's ban. I think this game will be really interesting because if this team can start and win this game comfortably, I'd be really intrigued to see how Vitor lines up against Tottenham next week. And out of form Tottenham as well. Will Cunha come straight back in? Will he stick with the winning formula? It will be interesting to see. But let's go over now to the opposition perspective. I had the pleasure of speaking to Roscoe to give us all the info on Ipswich ahead of Saturday's game. So then, guys, delighted to be alongside Roscoe to give us the Ipswich perspective ahead of this weekend's game. We'll jump onto the football in a little bit, mate, because we had a very brief chat just then about how the league table may look a little bit interesting maybe at 5 o'clock on Saturday evening. But other than that, how you been keeping? All good?
Yeah, all good. Fresh off the trip from Bournemouth. I stayed over because obviously it's a long trip on a Wednesday night. And yeah, that was a result we weren't expecting. But yeah, it's made it a little bit more interesting, this game.
Yeah, I mean, I went on social media yesterday. There's a lot of Wolves fans worrying once again because I think it makes Saturday for Wolves probably a must-not-lose game. I think if we can keep that gap of sort of the 9 points, I think with your running between now and the end of the season, touch wood, it should be enough for Wolves to stay in the Premier League. But certainly if Ipswich get all 3 points, mate, on Saturday, it could be an interesting late run-in. But let's quickly touch on that game against Bournemouth. I mean, you briefly said before we started that probably wasn't necessarily a game you're looking forward to, but good time to play him, and you took full advantage of that.
Yeah, we did. I think everyone's sort of resigned that we're down. So I think everyone's a little bit negative going into games. But we come back from the international break. We had a long gap. I think it was like 17 days or something crazy. This is the last game against Forest, and obviously Bournemouth already had played prior to that game because obviously they got beaten against Man City and did pretty well in the first half, but then sort of ran out of the gas. And we went into that game. I was like trying to predict like a win just to be a bit positive going into it, and then we played pretty well and defended really well, and we deserved to get the 3 points.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it was your first league win of the year so far. But with the Premier League, I know you sort of the bottom three, including us as well. To be fair, we've struggled to get out consistent runs of results. But that just final stretch of the season always tends to throw up some interesting results. And like I said, I think Wolves going into this game, as long as we can avoid defeat, I think we keep a really healthy gap. I mean, if we win, I think it is probably done just because judging by the fixtures that you've got left. But for you, Roscoe, what's been sort of the shining light this season? Or I'm sure it's not been all doom and gloom because I have no doubt, and I think as neutrals, people are looking at Ipswich again. They're going to be the sort of the boys at the bottom of the table, really, really struggling. But I think you've shown a lot more fight than people expected. Are you happy with? At certain times, I'm not going to say you're happy because obviously you sat in the bottom three, but you're happy with the level of performance that you've seen from this Ipswich side at times this season?
Yeah, for the most part, I think annoyingly we have been competitive in most of the games. There's only been maybe a handful of games where you like think we just were the bet. We were just it was men against boys. There's like teams against Newcastle and Man City when they came to our place, they beat us 6-0. But we've been very competitive against teams who are up there. Aston Villa, both games pretty competitive. Fulham as well. But there's just some games where you just think, it's just the story of the season. We're competitive for most of it, and then we just sort of let us, like against Bournemouth, funny enough, actually, the reverse game at Portman Road, we're 1-0 up, doing pretty well, and we thought, here we go, we're going to get a good 3 points at Portman Road, and then we lose 2-1 with 2 late goals. And then we've had that with so many different games. Southampton, last month, once again, the better team, and then Southampton score like a 90-plus minute winner, and sadly that was probably the moment where we're like, that could be us done because
Yeah.
losing against Southampton at home in that sort of manner, and yeah, I think most people are like resigned to go. You know what? We're ahead of schedule. No one expected us to be in the Premier League this quickly. Back-to-back promotions from League One to the Premier League.
Yeah.
We're pretty much most of the same squad. Obviously, we've brought in players. We spent a lot of money, but we're here to just have fun. Obviously, we wanted to be, competitive. We want to stay up, obviously, but
Yeah.
it is what it is, and hopefully we will recover from this. If we go down, we come straight back up. We shall see.
Yeah, let's talk about your gaffer as well, Kieran McKenna, who there was a lot of eyes on him last summer, and you did a really good job in keeping him, giving him a new deal as well. What do you think the future is for him? Do you think if you are to go down, he sticks with you, or what do you reckon?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Because obviously last summer it was the biggest talking point. Obviously, Town got promoted, and that was amazing. And then it was sadly, like a couple of weeks later, it was like, okay, is Kieran McKenna going to be our manager in the Premier League? Which would have been weird if he wasn't, because a manager getting you promoted and then leaving, obviously would have gone to maybe like Brighton, Chelsea, Man United, were sort of the teams linked.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. I hope he would want to stay to sort of finish the story in terms of, okay, we just got relegated. He's not really had a chance to really prove he can stay in the Premier League because maybe I want to say his stock will be gone down a little bit, but he just got relegated. And I don't know if it depends on, I know Crystal Palace, maybe even as Tottenham because he's coached there before. Maybe they'll look at it, but maybe they'll go, you know what, he's just been relegated. I know with an Ipswich Town team who haven't got that much experience. So I think he will stay, but if an opportunity comes up, he may have a little look at it. But I'm sure he wants to sort of finish this project, this story, and get Town back up to the Premier League.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it was the same with Vincent Kompany last year, wasn't it? He went down in Burnley and somehow managing Bayern Munich. It'd be interesting to see. I don't know. I think it was a little bit different there because Kompany would be able to go abroad. I can't really see that for Kieran McKenna. And at the moment, I think with the state of clubs like Spurs that you mentioned, I think after Postecoglou, they probably wouldn't want to take that sort of risk. So I think he'll be safe, and I think he's a good man in charge to hopefully, if you do go down, of course, to get you back up. And in terms of players as well, I mean, we've obviously played you in the reverse fixture. It was a really bad time for Wolves. Gary O'Neill, I think it was his last game in charge. We lost that, and then obviously we saw the aftermath with Mateus Cunha and the security and so on. But there were some players that stopped, shone in that game. I think Liam Delap was one of them who ran Nelson Semedo absolutely ragged for part of that game. But, I mean, he's probably one of the players that people are talking about the most. Is there anybody else, if you want to touch on Liam Delap, obviously, but is there anyone else that has, stood out for you so far this season?
Yeah, obviously Liam Delap is the obvious one. He's got 11 goals this year. His first season in Premier League football. He's obviously been a great signing for us. And obviously there was talk about him maybe being in England squad, which didn't happen in the end. Obviously he trained with the Thomas Tuchel's team.
Yeah.
Ahead of those sort of friendlies. But yeah, he is the big talking point. But there is other players who have been able to step up to the Premier League and have done well. Jens Guste, who's our Swedish midfielder, who's on loan from Napoli. We're all praying that he could sign permanently, but he's probably likely going to play in the Premier League, or he's still at Napoli, so he may go abroad. He's actually found out played in nearly every top flight league in Europe, so England, Italy, France. So now he's got Germany and Spain to do, so he may go there. But he's been fantastic in midfield. He's just so smooth on the ball. He's so relaxed. He scored his first goal recently against Nottingham Forest before the international break. But he's definitely one to watch. He's really been fantastic, really done well in the midfield. And then defensively as well, we've been better. There was a few moments, Aro Muric, who is a very expensive signing, 8 million, and he's not been great in goal. And we've since signed Alex Palmer from West Brom, and he's been fantastic. And Dara O'Shea, Axel Tuanzebe, Karen Burgess have been really solid in defence. They had a really good game against Bournemouth. That was a really good, organised, brave performance because Bournemouth have got good players and they were attacking us for most of that game, but they were just so solid. So I'll say those are the key ones. Obviously, once again, I can name check every player, but Jens Guste is the one I think Wolves fans will have to look at.
Yeah. Do you think Delap? Did you have Delap last season on loan, or was he a fresh signing this season? So I think that adjustment straight away to a new team. He's done well. And in regards to him, I mean, if you are to go down, is he a player that you think is probably bound to move on, or do you think he'd stick around?
Yeah. It's the bit once again. That's another biggest talking point going around Ipswich Town. It's like relegation, and also Liam Delap potentially leaving.
Yeah.
And obviously he scored 11 goals in the Premier League, and not many English strikers do that in their first season. So obviously Man City, there's a buyback clause there. There's Chelsea, all the Premier League teams pretty much linked with
Get
him.
on, have a look at him. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it'll be interesting. It depends on what he wants to do. Probably doesn't want to drop to the Championship, so most likely he will go. But you never know. But
Yeah. To your knowledge, is there any sort of release clause, or is there a value that's been going around at the moment for Liam Delap? Or
so yeah, apparently there is like a clause there, and Man City are obviously because they're the club we bought him from. So I think there is if they're interested. Once again in January, there was a lot of talk that Man City may trigger that clause, but obviously nothing happened. So Man City may try to bring him back, but I hope Liam Delap will go. You know what? I'm not going to play, am I? He's not going to play at Man City.
no, not frequently, no.
So you want him to go. I think maybe a team like Forest or Newcastle, a team who need a striker right now, he'll go to. But
Yeah.
you never know. He may go. You know what? I want to once again, like me and Kieran McKenna, I want to finish. I want to get this team back up. But I'm sure if he wants to get into the England squad and sort of play at the highest level, he'll want to stay in the Premier League. So we shall see.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we look at the league table. Wolves, as we speak right now, are 9 points ahead of Ipswich. It was weird because over the last few weekends, I mean, Wolves are unbeaten in 3 in the league, but we still looked at Ipswich and Leicester's results. Obviously, Leicester lost again yesterday. They're pretty much done, I think, with Wolves still 12 points ahead of them. We've still got yourselves. We've still got Leicester to play as well. But it's weird because I think, we're 9 points ahead of you. Let's say 10 if you're including the goal difference because there's such a big swing. I think if Ipswich win on Saturday, obviously it goes to 6 points. Let's say 7 points with the goal difference. But so, like I said earlier, there were a lot of Wolves fans worrying that maybe Ipswich, but you need to almost copy, win as many games as you've won all season. So I mean, it's a massive swing, and I think with the fixtures, it's going to be difficult for you guys. Is there, after yesterday's win, is there sort of belief in amongst the Ipswich fans? I mean, you would have seen on social media or watched content. Is there some sort of belief that Ipswich may do some sort of great escape?
A little bit. I think there's a mixture of people resigned that we're going to go down, and this was just a nice little feel-good moment, and let's just enjoy these final 8 games. But there's obviously there's a few people who are just like, you know what, the fat lady hasn't sung yet, the hope that kills you and all that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We've won 1 game at home all season, and then obviously we've only won 4 games in total this season. So for us to go on an unbelievable run, miracles can happen, but I don't know. Once again, we've got to hope you guys lose basically all your games starting from this Saturday. So, and I can't see that happening. I think you'll probably get a few results, So, it's the great escape can happen, but I don't know if it will.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think if you ask a lot of Wolves fans, I think that game after Ipswich, because at the time we all thought Gary O'Neill would have been gone weeks before that game, and he was still there. And I remember on my video after that game, I think it was the first time the whole that campaign I felt like we were in a lot of trouble, and probably up until sort of February was probably I thought nothing is done yet. And last February, March, we sort of pulled away a little bit, and we had a good start to April as well. But I'm just looking at your fixtures there again. I think after us, you've got Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, really tough fixtures. And I'm really hoping we get the job done by then, because I think your last 4 are a little bit more favourable. You've got Everton, Brentford, Leicester and West Ham. So I'm hoping, we have the job done by then. But never say never. And I think going back to what I said, there were a lot of people that thought, yes, on paper, Wolves may have a better squad than Ipswich. But Ipswich seemed to, at that point, have a lot more fight and desire than Wolves. And I think slowly but surely, I mean, you may or may not have seen the highlights from our game on Tuesday. You saw the passion and the fight that we saw towards the end. And I'm hoping that we can see that again on Saturday. against you boys. But score prediction, mate, what are you thinking? I think it's going to be a tough game. A really, really interesting game, I think, for a neutral to watch as well.
Yeah, I think it feels like it's got something on it now with us winning.
Yeah.
Bournemouth. I think if we didn't win, I think it would be so flat. I think everyone will just go, yeah, we're down. But it was 12 points. So, but we've got to win. So obviously I'm going to back Ipswich to win, but it is going to be tough. And obviously Portman Road has been, I don't know why, for the last 2 years, it has honestly been a fortress. It's been a place where it's the golden ticket. We were scoring loads of goals, winning every game. Obviously go up to the Premier League. It wasn't going to be that. No one was expecting that. But we thought that was going to be what was going to keep us up. Is our home, which is the cliche. Your home form. If you win your home games, you'll stay up. So I'm going to back a Town win. As I said, there's not been that many goals at Portman Road, really. Definitely these sort of games. I'm going to go 2-1. And maybe more late drama again, potentially. Ipswich to score another late goal against you.
Oh. So I'm not going on Saturday, but I hate watching the games when I'm not there. I don't know why. Especially a Saturday. We had quite a few just Saturday 3 p.m.s, and they're just, I don't know, they're so painful to watch sometimes. I get so nervous. So I'm hoping Wolves make it straightforward. But I mean, I think it could be a 2-1 either way. I think I'd shake your hand now for a 1-1 draw, just so we avoid defeat, like I said earlier. But no, looking forward to it, mate. All the best for the rest of the season, apart from Saturday, obviously, and beyond. And hopefully we do catch up soon either way. Where's the best places that people can find your content, mate, before we finish?
Yeah, so Ipswich Town, Kings of Anglia podcast. We cover the team home and away. We're also connected to the East Anglian Daily Times newspaper. So yeah, check that out online. And obviously we'll check out your chat with me over on our channels as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'll make sure I leave a link to the channels down below. And thanks for joining me, mate, and I'll catch you on the next one.
So big thanks once again to Roscoe. I'll make sure I leave a link to him and his channels in the description down below. And guys, let me know your thoughts heading into this game. It's a tough one. I'm a little bit nervous for this one, if I'm honest. But if Wolves can get the job done, I'll be so, so happy. Because I think of 3 points of Wolves, and that will be pretty much job done between now and the end of the campaign. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll catch you on the next one.